Derek, when did you first hear or get into jam?
I heard the first single, In the City, on the radio. Thought this is fantastic. Went and bought it in the record shop, and that's what started from there. I didn't actually see them till '78.
And how old was you in '78?
19.
You left school, was you working?
Working.
And you, obviously, photographer, did you take your camera with you at gigs even in the early stages?
I think the first one I took was '79 on Setting Sun's tour, because it was just crazy at the gigs. I'd only really just started getting into photography at the time, so I didn't have one for the first gigs, and just took it along later.
What can you remember about them early gigs?
It was just so exciting inside the gigs. It felt like it could turn into a riot, like the tension in the room before they came on. Very aggressive in the gigs, but it was just fantastic.
Did anyone, I'm asked this one, did anyone actually go for leave the gig at any point, or was it just proper intense atmosphere, you know, no one wanted to miss a trick or a thing?
I think it's hard to tell what was going on around you because it was so frantic, to be honest. I'm sure people would have had times to have to get a break out of it, but if you were trying to get down to the front, once you were there, you were staying there for the gig, you was no going anywhere, unless you were carried out.
You used to come out with any sort of cuts and bruises and stuff?
I had a few bruises. I got a cracked rib from that was a later one at the Rainbow. It was just I think staying on your feet was hard. It was just so intense at the gig, so it was madness, really.
Did you make friends at them sort of?
Yeah, I did. I met a few people over the years, and it was great. And I think one of the best things was going to other gigs as I started to go more, and you'd see other people that you knew from other gigs, and it was like, it ended up being like not like a reunion, but just seeing so many people you knew, and that was for me a huge part of it.
What was like the anticipation of sort of getting a train up from Kingston, that sort of area? You know, was it sort of knife edge sort of even before you got there? Yeah,
I think once as you got closer, it's probably like closer to game time, you know, kick off. It's kind of, you felt it sort of building up and building up. But on the way, maybe not so much. But when you got inside, and then there'd be like the support band, and then there'd be a bit of music in between, and that waiting for the band to come on.
Did you have any sort of interaction with the band themselves at that point, or at any time before we get to obviously doing the sleep? But what was your interaction with the band and meeting them?
I went to, once I started to know about sound checks, I used to go along if I could, and then they always used to let us in, and they were just fantastic like that. So then sometimes you speak to them afterwards, sometimes to get something signed. I just thought they were just really accessible, which was great. But you're obviously young and nervous, and you know, like they're your heroes, and it's quite daunting, really, I suppose.
And how did you actually sort of, you know, get the gig of doing the absolute beginner's sleep? How did that come about?
I think it was just a stroke of luck, really. I'd taken a few photos in the past, and I'd sent a few to Paul or to the fan club, and Paul wrote back, and then one time he wrote back and said he really liked the photos. And then earlier that year on the tour, I'd sent some more in, taken some more photos and sent them in. And then I was coming home from work one day, and I used to go in this snooke club where my dad used to go. And I was just about to leave, and he said to me, "Oh, by the way, you had a phone call from some Weller woman." I remember him saying that. And it was like, yeah. And it was, oh, she wanted to speak to you something about a photo session. Oh, obviously really excited, I couldn't believe it. And no one knew I'd sent the pictures as well, so it wasn't like I was worried at first, thinking, you know, is it a wind up from somebody? You know, pulling my legs. Obviously, they knew I was keen on the band and sent photos in. Anyway, so I went home, flew home, waited for the phone to ring. I think it was like a Tuesday or Wednesday night. No phone call. Stayed in the next night after night. Come to Sunday night, I thought, well, maybe it was a wind up that somebody, you know, it was just a joke anyway. Sunday night, Anne Weller phoned. So I really saw I'd lost your number, and I basically, yeah, it was fine, you know. Try to be cool about it, as cool as you can be. And she said that they'd really like the band, like your photographs, and I'd like to meet. So I arranged one night to meet in Woking, to go to the house in Woking, to have a chat about it all. So I remember going along, and I didn't drive at the time, so I got the train to Woking, and then Anne picked me up, and then met her and John, and just had a chat about what they wanted to do, and then arranged to go up to the Shire when the band were recording, So they were doing Absolute Beginners and Tales from the Riverbank. So I went on to Air Studios, and obviously like really nervous at the time. They were huge, my favourite band, and although I'd spoken to them a couple of times, still quite daunting prospect. Anyway, I went in the studio and they were recording. They were really friendly. Came over and had a chat. Sort of made you feel welcome, but it's still hard because you are so nervous. And then there came a point when it was like a natural break for them, and Paul said, "Do you fancy a game of pool?" So I thought, yeah, brilliant. So I went out and they said, "It's like you and me play together." And it was, I think to most people, wouldn't make any sense or wouldn't mean anything. But you know, I'm just about to play pool with Paul Weller at the studio, and it was fantastic. And we won 2-1. And you know, I'm a Leeds United supporter. Sorry about that. But like, that to me was as important a win as some of the ones that my team have had over the years.
And then, what was it like to sort of go and do the film shoot in Chiswick Park?
I was really nervous because I've taken a few photos before at gigs. I kind of learned what to do, but I've never done a photo session, something like that at all. So I had no idea about what I should be doing, what to look for. Hadn't been to the place before, and of course it was a jam, so it was just quite a daunting prospect. Probably shouldn't have done it at the time, but I did invite a couple of friends because it was so hard not to tell people. There was a couple of girls that I knew, who fun enough I've just got back in contact with, and they were great and came along. And there was the 3 guys whose names are terrible, I can't even remember the names now, but they said nothing. I think they were just so overawed by the whole thing. They sort of stayed for maybe a half hour, an hour, whatever, and left. But the day was really good. It was, I can't remember lots of things about it in some ways, but I remember the band were really helpful in terms of what I was trying to get them to do. And I think with the benefit of hindsight, like if you go back and do it again, you probably do a lot of things differently. Probably take more pictures as well. So I was conscious about how many films I had. Whereas I think if I was doing it now, I'd just take loads. And I think one of the things that they'd asked was, or Paul would mention, was trying to get the statues in with like the dark suits they were wearing. But the statues are like 7 foot, 12 foot tall, whatever it is, and it just looked odd with the people next to them. So, but we tried a few different bits in the part, which was good. And it was just nice to do it, I think. And at the end, I think I was kind of relieved as much as anything else. And obviously, at the time, there's no digital, so you've no idea what the photos are going to be like until you get them back. So I gave everything. I think I gave them all. Either I got them done, then give them to Bruce after, or give them to Bruce to get done.
Well, the band were very helpful and cooperative with you.
Yeah, they were great. I mean, there were some bits where I was trying to get them sort of the heads lined up, and just it was quite odd. Rick, can you move a little bit to the right? Or Paul, can you just stick your head back a little bit? It's quite odd to say things like that to them when you are so nervous as well. But they were great. I think that, there was nothing they could have done more to be more helpful, and I think they were relaxed. I guess for them, it was probably, I don't know. They didn't strike me as being nervous at all. But then I was really nervous, so.
It's striking, like looking back now, striking, obviously we talked about a band that split up 30 years ago, but obviously they mean a lot to so many of us. What would you say was a standout, point of view for photography aside of just being part of that jam army, and Paul it was there?
I think going to see him and seeing other people at the gigs was a huge part for me. I remember going to Amsterdam, and you turn up outside and there would just be loads of people that you knew. Things like that was massive. I'd say that was one of the biggest parts for me, seeing people, even if you didn't know everybody, just recognising faces that you knew. It felt like a family event in that respect, to the people you'd seen before. I remember going to Guildford, 2 nights in Guildford in 1981, this is before I got involved, and it was 2 of the hottest days in the summer in July that year. And the gigs were it was just so hot, you were melting. But it was fantastic, and we stayed over in a B&B, and I ended up in the wrong B&B, which is another story for another day. But it was just, I would say for me, that was probably the most exciting. In fact, I think in some ways, before I met them, you had a different view of things. I think after, there was good and bad, not necessarily just from the band, but from people involved. So that made it, kind of took away a bit of, what's the word, like the mystique of the whole thing.
Would you say, how did you feel when the band split?
I was gutted because they're my favourite band. They seem to be doing so well, or they were doing well. But then I thought to myself, I think there's so many people who carried on, bands I've liked over the years, who've carried on, and maybe when they should have stopped. And I thought to actually stop at this time was such a brave decision. So I actually respected it. I've actually bumped into Bruce at the time, and he just said, I'm absolutely gutted when I heard, like, you know, what was going on. But yeah, I was disappointed, but I think even then I felt, well, if it's the right thing to do at the right time for the right reason, then, you know, I've always believed in what I've done up till then.
Going to songs or albums, is there anything that really sort of sticks with you from any era? You know, what do you wake up with and think? I know, because obviously every day brings a different song, but what would you say would be the one song that either means the most or you can bring into your life every day?
That's a tough question. I think Eating Rifles would be my favourite song. Not that it was something that you think about generally, just at the time, just of hearing it and just the excitement of hearing it and watching Weller do it, the feedback. And I've seen him, if the gig, there was trouble with the sound and he got angry, he tended to play better. And I always remember if there were some problems and he played Eating Rifles, it always seemed to be the best.
Last question, sum up the Jam for you in your own words.
They were my favourite band without a shadow of a doubt. I felt that they stood for the things that I believed in. It was amazing to be a fan, going to see them. Then to get involved was just a dream come true. And in fact, when I hear people talk about them getting back together, I know that Paul said he won't do it, but I'd rather not. I'd rather remember it as it was at that moment in time. And it was just fantastic, and I was just really lucky to be involved. Lucky enough to see him first of all, and then to get involved with him as well from that side was just brilliant.
Derek D'Souza, this is your life.
Thank you very much.